Hello, my friend. It's good to have you back. Today's story is about a boy who could make a football do things it was never supposed to do. A boy who was asked, before he had even grown into his own body, to become the next PelÃ. A boy who carried the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders every single time he stepped onto the pitch. This is not just a story about goals. It is a story about pressure, about pain, about falling down in front of millions of people and getting back up anyway. Let me take you back to a small city outside São Paulo, Brazil. The year is the late 1990s, and in a modest home, a little boy is chasing a ball down a dirt street, barefoot, laughing. This is the story of Neymar. Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. was born on February 5, 1992, in a city called Mogi das Cruzes on the edge of Greater São Paulo. His father was also named Neymar. Neymar Santos Sr. had once dreamed of being a professional footballer himself. He played in Brazil's lower leagues, in small clubs, in front of small crowds. The dream never fully arrived for him. Life was not easy, money was tight, but the father never stopped loving the game, and he passed that love directly into his son's hands. His mother's name was Nadine. She held the family together during the hardest years. And Neymar had a little sister, Rafaela, who would grow up to become one of his closest friends and biggest supporters. The family did not have much, but like so many Brazilian households, they had a ball, a street, and a dream. Before Neymar ever played on a real football pitch, he played futsal, fast, tight, indoor five-a-side football played on a hard court with a heavier ball. Futsal rewards quick feet and quicker thinking. There is no time to waste. There is no space to hide. Neymar later said that futsal built the foundation of everything he became. The tight turns, the instant control, the ability to think 3 moves ahead while a defender is 1 step behind. He learned all of it on those small, unforgiving courts, mixed with hours of barefoot street football with the other kids in his neighborhood. He did not grow up dreaming of Cristiano Ronaldo or watching posters of European superstars on his wall. His idol wore yellow and green. His idol was Robinho, a flashy young Brazilian forward who was tearing up Brazilian football at the time. Neymar also admired Ronaldinho, the smiling magician of the ball, and a rising Argentine wonder kid named Lionel Messi, a name that would follow Neymar for the rest of his career, first as an inspiration, and later as a partner, and later still as a rival. In 2003, when Neymar was 11 years old, his family made a decision that would change everything. They packed up and moved to the coastal city of Santos, home of the legendary club Santos FC. This was the very club where decades earlier, a teenager named PelÃ had turned himself into the greatest footballer the world had ever seen. Neymar joined the Santos Youth Academy, and almost immediately the coaches could see it. This wasn't just a talented kid, this was something rare. By the time Neymar was 14 years old, word had already crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Real Madrid invited him to Spain for a trial. Imagine that, a 14-year-old boy from a working-class Brazilian family standing on the same training grounds that had once belonged to legends. He impressed them. Real Madrid wanted him, but Santos was not willing to let him go. The club dramatically increased his financial package to convince the family to stay in Brazil a little longer. Neymar's father, who had become his son's manager and closest advisor, agreed. Better to let the boy grow at home in familiar surroundings than to throw him into the deep end of European football before he was ready. So Neymar stayed in Santos. He kept training, he kept scoring, and the whole country slowly began to hear his name. By 15, he was already earning a real salary. By 17, in 2009, he signed his first full professional contract and made his debut for the Santos first team. He did not need long to make an impact. In his very first season, he played 33 league matches. He scored 10 goals. He added 7 assists. For a teenager, this was extraordinary. For a boy following in the footsteps of PelÃ himself, it was the beginning of something the whole country was waiting for. In 2010, Neymar helped Santos win the Campeonato Paulista, the state championship, and he was named the tournament's best player. He also helped the club win the Copa do Brasil, the Brazilian Cup, finishing as the competition's top scorer with 11 goals. That same year, in August 2010, he was called up to the senior Brazilian national team for the first time. His opponent that day was the United States. He scored his very first international goal in that match. Brazil won 2-0. He also debuted a new hairstyle that year, a bold mohawk, and almost overnight, kids across Brazil were copying the haircut of their new hero. But 2011 is when the legend truly began to take shape. That year, Neymar led Santos to the Copa de Libertadores, South America's version of the Champions League, the most prestigious club trophy on the continent. Santos had not won it since 1963, since the days of PelÃ himself. Neymar was named the best player of the entire tournament. Later that year, he scored a goal against Flamengo that no one who saw it has ever forgotten. He picked up the ball near the edge of the box, and what followed looked less like football and more like a magic trick. Quick touches, impossible changes of direction, defenders left grasping at air, and finally the ball rolling into the net. That single goal won the FIFA Puskás Award for the best goal in world football that year. Neymar was 19 years old. By his 20th birthday in 2012, he had already scored his 100th professional goal. He finished that season with 43 goals in total. He was named South American Footballer of the Year for the second year running. PelÃ himself, the man Neymar was constantly being compared to, said publicly that Neymar might be the best player in the world. Diego Maradona, never one to hold back an opinion, responded that Neymar might be the best, but only if you were willing to say Messi came from another planet entirely. The whole world was watching a boy who was still, in many ways, just a kid from Mogi das Cruzes. In 2013, Neymar helped Brazil win the Confederations Cup on home soil, scoring 4 goals across the tournament and winning the Golden Ball as the competition's best player. Brazil beat Spain 3-0 in the final. Neymar scored in that final too. It was clear he was ready. Real Madrid wanted him. Chelsea wanted him. But in May 2013, Neymar made his choice. He was joining FC Barcelona. He said it himself. His dream had always been to play at Barcelona, to play alongside Lionel Messi, to share a pitch with Xavi and Iniesta, the players he had grown up admiring from across the ocean. On June 3, 2013, he was officially presented as a Barcelona player. Thousands of fans packed the Camp Nou just to watch him walk out in a Barcelona shirt for the first time. At Barcelona, Neymar became part of one of the most feared attacking trios football has ever seen. Messi, Suárez, Neymar. The world called them MSN. Together, they tore through defenses across Europe. In the 2014 to 2015 season, Barcelona won the treble, the league, the domestic cup, and the Champions League, all in one season. In the Champions League final against Juventus, Neymar scored the third and decisive goal. He was 23 years old and already a European champion. But before that triumph, there was heartbreak, and it happened on home soil, in front of his own people. In 2014, the World Cup came to Brazil. The entire nation believed this was destiny. Their team, on their own soil, with their brightest young star leading the line. Neymar scored 4 goals in Brazil's first 5 matches of the tournament. The dream was alive. Then came the quarterfinal against Colombia. In the closing minutes of the match, Neymar was caught with a knee to the back. He collapsed to the grass instantly, unable to move. He had fractured a vertebra in his spine. His World Cup was over. He watched from a hospital bed as his teammates prepared for the semifinal against Germany without him. What happened next became one of the darkest nights in Brazilian football history. Germany defeated Brazil 7-1 on home soil in a World Cup semifinal. The nation was in shock. Some fans, in their grief, quietly wondered, would it have been different with Neymar on the pitch? He carried that question with him for a long time. A boy who had done everything right, who had scored, who had led, and still, when his country needed him most, his body had betrayed him. 2 years later, in 2016, he found a way to make it right, at least a little. Neymar captained the Brazilian Olympic team at the Rio Games, played in front of his home crowd, and in the final against Germany, the same nation that had broken Brazil's heart in 2014, he stepped up and scored the winning penalty. Brazil won its first ever Olympic gold medal in football. Neymar dropped to his knees and wept on the grass of the Maracanã. In August 2017, football changed forever. Paris Saint-Germain paid €222 million for Neymar. It remains, to this day, the largest transfer fee ever paid for a football player in history, nearly double the previous record. He was no longer just a brilliant footballer. He was now a global business, a walking headline, the most expensive human being in the history of sport. At PSG, he won league titles. He won domestic cups. In 2020, he helped PSG reach their first ever Champions League final, though they were narrowly defeated by Bayern Munich. But the pressure that came with that price tag never let up. Every dribble was scrutinized, every dive, every complaint to the referee, every night out was front-page news. In Brazil, and increasingly in France too, people began to ask a difficult question. Was Neymar wasting his talent? Injuries piled up, ankle surgeries, metatarsal fractures, season after season interrupted. The boy who once looked unstoppable now looked, at times, fragile. Still, on the international stage, the goals kept coming. At the 2022 World Cup in Qatar, Neymar scored in the quarterfinal against Croatia, a stunning goal in extra time that seemed to be sending Brazil to the semi-finals. For a moment, it looked like this might finally be his tournament. Then Croatia equalized. The match went to penalties. Brazil lost. Neymar sat on the grass in tears, his World Cup dream slipping away for a 4th time. That goal had tied him with Pelé's all-time Brazilian scoring record of 77 international goals. He was one step from history, and still, somehow, walking away from another World Cup without the trophy. In early 2025, Neymar made a decision that surprised absolutely no one who understood where his heart truly was. He left Saudi Arabia and returned to Santos, the club where it had all begun, over 20 years earlier. He was 33 years old now, slower, more scarred, no longer the electric teenager with the mohawk who once danced past 3 defenders like they were standing still. But he came home anyway, back to Vila Belmiro, the same stadium where a boy from Mogi das Cruzes first put on the black and white shirt. For the fans of Santos, it was emotional. It was a reminder of everything he once was, and a hope for one final chapter. In February 2026, Neymar extended his contract with Santos. He was honest about the uncertainty ahead. He said, in his own words, that he was living year to year now, and that he genuinely did not know what the future would hold. My friend, one thing before I continue. This script is being written while the 2026 World Cup, hosted across the United States, Mexico, and Canada, has already unfolded. Some of what follows is now written into history. Neymar had battled injuries again in the build-up to the tournament, including a calf problem that threatened to keep him out entirely. But on June 24, 2026, in Brazil's final group stage match against Scotland, he came off the bench. It was his first World Cup appearance in over 2 years. That substitute appearance made him just the 4th Brazilian player in history to feature in 4 separate World Cups, joining a list that includes only PelÃ, Djalma Santos, and Cafu. Then came the round of 16. On July 5, 2026, Brazil faced Norway. In a tight, tense match, Brazil was awarded a penalty. Neymar stepped up. He scored. It was his 9th World Cup goal. It made him only the 2nd Brazilian player in history, after PelÃ, to score in 4 different World Cups. But Brazil lost that match, 2-1. And with that final whistle, Neymar's World Cup journey and his entire international career came to an end. He announced his retirement from the Brazilian national team right there. Fittingly, painfully, the match was played at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, the very stadium where 16 years earlier, a young Neymar had made his international debut and scored his first goal for Brazil. He finished his international career with 80 goals in 130 appearances. Brazil's all-time leading scorer, more than PelÃ, more than Ronaldo, more than anyone who has ever worn the yellow shirt. Here is the strangest thing about Neymar. He was never just a footballer. From the moment he was a teenager, he was asked to be a symbol, the next PelÃ, the savior of a nation still chasing its 6th World Cup star, the face of Brazilian football for an entire generation. He carried that weight through broken vertebrae, torn ligaments, a record transfer fee, relentless criticism, and 4 World Cups that all ended in heartbreak, one way or another. And yet, ask football fans around the world what Neymar gave the game, and most of them won't talk about trophies first. They'll talk about the way he made a football feel alive under his feet, the dribbles that looked impossible, the joy of a kid from a small Brazilian city who never stopped playing like he was still on that street in Mogi das Cruzes, barefoot, laughing, chasing a ball that finally, after everything, chased him back. Neymar never got his World Cup. Not in 2014, not in 2018, not in 2022, not in 2026. But he leaves the international stage as Brazil's greatest goal scorer of all time, a record that once belonged to the very man he was compared to since he was a boy. My friend, sometimes the biggest dream of all is the one you never quite catch, but that doesn't erase everything you built while you were chasing it. So tell me, do you think history will remember Neymar as one of the true greats even without a World Cup trophy of his own? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. I read every one. Until next time, take care of yourself, and when night falls, come back to History Time.